Hi, my name is Kelly Maraz. I am the General Music PLC lead. Today's topic is drumming. So in previous videos, we've talked about woods and metals, scrapers and shakers, and now we're on to drums, the final family of unpitched percussion instruments. We're going to talk about two main kinds of drums that you may find in your classroom, and that is frame drums or hand drums, they're sometimes referred to. And we're also going to look at djembes, and the techniques we're going to talk about on djembe can be applied to tubanos as well. Congas, bongo drums are a separate category. Those are more specialized Latin drumming. They do require specialized techniques, so I'm not going to be covering those in this video. So we're going to start with frame drums. So when I say frame drum, I mean something like this. So it's shaped like a circle and it has a rim and nothing on the back. Bodhráns from Ireland will have, and other drums from around the world will have a cross brace here for you to hold, but most of the drums in your classroom probably do not. This is called a tar. This is a North African instrument, but it does look a lot like the common frame drums that we find in the classroom. So there are a lot of different ways you can play these with your students, and a lot of it's going to depend on their level of muscle control and their level of comfort with drumming. So I'm going to start little and kind of work up. With my kindergartners and first graders, a lot of times I will have them kind of cradle the drum, hold it like this. And so their body is supporting the drum. And then with their dominant hand, I just teach them to tap on the edge. And we kind of, in my classroom, I kind of do a glancing away motion, but this also works where you're bouncing right off the head. I tell them to avoid the middle because on most frame drums, the middle is not as resonant and it doesn't sound as good. And what my students will most likely say is, this drum doesn't work. So we want to avoid the middle. We want to go toward the edge. Some drums will have like a logo, whatever company made the drum toward the edge. That's a great place to aim. And if they're more comfortable at the top, that's absolutely fine. Or at the bottom. Sometimes I will also have them rest it on their lap if they're sitting crisscross applesauce in my room, and that way they can tap with both hands if that's required. What I do not let them do is put the drum flat on the ground and play it, because that's not allowing any air into this chamber here to let it resonate, and it will not have its intended sound. And with drums, I'm really picky about sound quality. I think it's an important thing for kids to be thinking about, even from the beginning, is what timbre do I want to get out of this drum? With my older kids, sometimes we talk about driving a car. So I've got my hands on, I don't know, 9 and 3 here. And then you just drop, like, actually it would be like this. So I'm driving and then I just drop a hand. And so now my hand is holding the drum. Now, chances are the drums in your classroom are a lot smaller than this. And so that's very attainable for, even late kindergarten, first, second, third grade. So you're holding it with one hand and you're tapping it with the other. Notice I'm still down here on the edge. If they're looking for a dead or closed sound, you can experiment. And maybe sometimes I have my students create drum ostinatos. And so you can experiment with those different sounds as they get older and they have more control over what they're doing. So with frame drumming, those are my two preferred techniques. Now there is another way you can do it, and that is to hold it at the bottom. So what I'm doing now is my thumbs are on the insides. Actually, there's a hole here, so I can actually put my thumb through the hole. Your drums won't have that usually, so I'm just cradling it down here, and I'm kind of resting it on my hand, and I can tap like this. So that's another choice, and that totally works too because I'm at the edge of the drum. I'm not in the middle. If you're doing frame drumming technique that's culturally authentic from Northern Africa or the Middle East, you will see people, so they're using their fingers to get different timbres, and they will actually kind of slap their palm onto the drum to get a more staccato sound. So, as the teacher, if you want to experiment with that, you can learn to play cool ostinatos for your kids and to accompany them. So again, I'm supporting the weight here at the bottom. I'm using my fingers to play the rhythms, and then I can go ahead and just kind of slap or thump my fingertips onto the middle of the drum. If you have a large enough frame drum, that's a great way to get different sounds. If your frame drums are smaller, you won't be able to do that. But the smaller frame drums are for, students who are still working on that control. But older elementary students and middle school students could absolutely learn this technique where you're tapping from the bottom, which is more culturally authentic. So again, you can hug it and play it. You can hold it and play it. Or you can support the weight with the bottom of your hands and play it. But remember, if you want a resonant sound, you want to aim for the edge of the drum and not the center. So I'm going to get another drum out and we will talk about djembes. Hi, I'm back with my djembe. So this is a djembe. You can tell by the shape. I used to say goblet shape. My students have amended that to flashlight shape. So you can use whatever you'd like to describe it. A wider top, and then it comes in and then back out a little bit. Some will flare more than others. My djembe comes from Ghana. I bought it a very long time ago from a friend. You'll see them with ropes, but you'll also see them made out of plastic without ropes. So if you hear the word rope-tuned djembe, you're looking for ropes. But a lot of the classroom versions don't have those, so you're not able to tune them. Some of them come with lug tuning, which are those little silver pegs. So you are able to tune those kind of djembes. Djembes and tubanos can be played using a lot of the same techniques. Bongos and congas are specialized and use different techniques. We're not going to go over those today. So my djembe should be held between my legs and not flat on the ground. So I'm using my knees to kind of hold it, and then my feet are giving it a bit of a cushion down there. You don't want them flat on the ground, and you definitely don't want them toward you, because that will involve you playing like this, and that's not good for your carpal tunnels or muscles in your forearms. Tubanos can be played flat because they have a tube built into them to circulate the air. Djembes need to be tilted away. And I'm just going to hold this here with my knees. There are 3 different sounds you can get on a djembe or a tubano or a conga drum: bass, tone, and slap. We are not going to be talking about slap today because that is not safe for students at the elementary or even middle school level. So let's talk about bass sounds. Bass sounds are low sounds. You're going to achieve that with your whole hand in the middle of the drum, right in the middle of the drum head. If you have a smaller djembe, like an 8 or 10 inch, and again, when we're talking about measurements, that's the diameter of the head. So 8 or 10 inches across. The hand might completely cover the head for larger elementary or middle school children. That's okay. You want the hand to be soft and relaxed. Almost take your hand, put it on the back of your head, and keep that slight curve. That's what you're looking for. So the sound is produced by the rim of your hand. If I'm practicing bass sounds with students, I will often play them, ask them to repeat them back to me. So simple rhythms, like so. Another sound you can make is called tone. Tone is at the edge of the drum closest to you. So not far away from you, but close to you. Make sure you enforce that with your students. So tone is accomplished by using my fingers, not my whole hand. So if you look at this hinge here, that's where we're aiming for the edge of the drum. You'll also notice that my thumbs are not involved in a tone sound. I'm keeping my thumbs away, almost like making the L shape. Which hand is my right? Which hand is my left? And that's because you don't want to injure your thumbs. These bones right here are very sensitive and can, if you hit the rim of the drum wrong, you're going to have bruising and pain, and we don't want that for our students. So fingers only on the edge of the drum. And I'll echo that with my students too, just tone sounds. So we isolate each one. And then what's important is that the students can move back and forth between the sounds. So maybe we'll break it up. We'll do one bass and one tone. We'll play tone. And what that does for me is, can I hear a difference? And if I'm hearing a difference between the sounds, then they're doing it correctly. If I do not hear a difference between the sounds, they're probably somewhere in here in no man's land, or they're not switching and they're just doing everything on bass. According to the age level, skill level, experience level of your students, you can work on that. And then what I'll do, kind of the final step, is can we do both in the same pattern? So we might go or, and if you're looking for advanced drumming techniques, then you're going to have one hand in the middle, one hand on the edge. Because when you're playing actual West African drum patterns, you are mixing up bass and tone in the same pattern. For example, the most popular pattern that I've played is called cuckoo. And you'll see that bass and tone are used both in that same pattern. So if you're playing these drums with your students, you want to remember, do not use slap. Keep your hands safe and relaxed. If you are complaining, if you hear complaining of pain, stop and reassess the technique. And then isolate those two different sounds and then try to combine them. And that way your students will be on their road to drumming. Thanks, and we'll see you for the next video.